We are officially live. Welcome in, boys. Thank you so much for joining. Guys, we have a podcast series that I would like to start. We'll see how it goes, see how you guys like it. But this is essentially our State of the Game, State of Throne and Liberty like podcast. Maybe that'll be the title for it. I'm joined here by two fantastic, handsome gentlemen, Mr. Danny and Mr. Shiku, two seasoned veterans of the game that I have fought alongside as well as against, to be honest. And in today's podcast, we're going to be going over a few different subjects here. I'm going to try and keep this podcast as short as possible. Ideally under 30 minutes so that it's a little bit more digestible on YouTube. But on Twitch for the live stream, we will probably extend past the 30 minutes and continue to talk. So if you guys do want to check out the full extended version, you just got to be here live on Twitch, man. You know, that's what it comes down to. You can find all these guys' links in the description below. I will go through a very quick and brief introduction period, but before I do, I want you guys to know that the talking subjects today, we're going to be talking about the Western delay. We're going to be talking a little bit about the CEO swapsies from Pearl Abyss and NCSoft, just a little bit. But more importantly, we're going to be talking about the current endgame loop in runes. And then we're going to round this out by talking a little bit about PvP balance and more importantly, the time to kill. So Danny, would you give us a brief introduction? Who are you? Where are you playing from? Is that a truck?
Yeah. I'm technically homeless. I'm living in a van now. I'm running through Starlink, and I took my family on a bit of an adventure. So everything that I'm doing at the moment is streaming from a van. But I've been playing with Pirate Gaming for probably 10 plus years at this point, on and off different crew. But we got a nice core, and we're very excited to play TNL, especially on global. Like Korea's been very fun, but I think playing on our own ping is going to be great. But yeah, man, streaming from a van, playing games with the boys, having good times with the family, and here we are. Yeah,
awesome. Danny, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with Throne?
At the moment, it's a dead POV. I'm running in and I'm getting one shot by a major. No, honestly, like in terms of a game, it's probably one of the most exciting games for me. A part of a community that likes PvP and likes MMOs. It's like the game, right? It's actually the game. My only concern is the drop off of players, but I think we'll talk about that as we go. But sure, the game itself is fucking ace. Like I love it. It's really good. I think there's a lot of depth to it now, especially now they're bringing in a bit more, how do we say, casual friendly stuff. I was fishing yesterday. I was in my van fishing on TNL for like 3 hours. Overarching comment is a great game, and I think people need to try it out.
Awesome. Shiku, stage is yours.
Yo, I mean, jokes aside, I am from Egypt indeed. Like, I know that this comes up as a joke from Kanon's end a lot on the stream. I've been streaming MMOs for like a year and a half now. Mostly like Throne has been like my main go-to game, honestly. Based on what Danny was mostly saying, it is definitely a game that brings back like the community vibe specifically, and that's what I like about it. Even though honestly, as a crossbow dagger player, I hate my life, but we will talk about that later. It's fine. But yeah, I do like a lot of things that they're doing with the game, but at the same time, sadly, there are some negatives that we will be also talking about. But overall, like, yeah, Egypt, pharaohs, pyramids, you know it. And yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Been streaming for like 1.5 years, and that's about it.
Fantastic. And like I said, once again, guys, you can find all their socials in the link below, in the description. You can find their links in the description below. Sorry. So just to make sure we are on time here, and this isn't a 7-hour podcast, let's get right into it. Before we start talking about the Western delay, which is the first subject, this is a conversation about the general state of the game. So please keep in mind, a lot of people that might be watching this are also players that are completely ignorant to the game, that have never played the game before. And I do want to allow them to understand what we're talking about, right? So with that said, Shiku, tell us, can you share your thoughts on just what you think or how you perceive the general state of Throne of Liberty. Is it good? Is it bad? What does it feel like? Is it pay to win, not pay to win? Just like a general TLDR. How's the game? If some random new player was gonna ask you.
I think the game has a lot to do. Like, it's definitely very fun if you're like new to the game. Like, specifically if you're new to the game and you're trying the game for the first time, I think it could be a little overwhelming to some degree, but really fun to explore. That was, in my opinion, like the most fun I've had playing the game as a new player. But then again, I think a lot of things feel incomplete to some degree. As in, like, the game has a lot of potential, but a lot of the systems that get implemented are they just feel kind of shallow, some of them. Some are great, don't get me wrong, but some just feel like a little on the incomplete end, that it feels like they just were not thought through correctly. And if they get tweaked, I think that will actually showcase the potential this game could actually have. But as long as they're like coming out in these like incomplete formats, that could hurt the game in the long run. So I'm hoping they have a plan for these kinds of things.
Danny, what's your take?
TLDR is it's a bloody great game. You're gonna get your ass kicked. You're gonna kick some ass. The story, dare I say it, is actually quite good. Like the playthrough of the questing and everything, they've actually done a good job. It feels nice.
I didn't know they had one.
You level up quickly. Yeah, I'm all about the lore. Me, I love the lore.
No, it's actually it is actually I heard it's pretty good.
I don't really care about it, but like the cinematics and the way that they kind of keep you engaged while you play through that, it's not like that.
Especially
previous game
the music.
I played, this is actually it's good. Like it's genuinely good. My worry is that it's very punishing for new players. Like to get into a game, this is a PvP focused game. To get into the PvP is very difficult if you're not with someone who's going to talk you through it or spend your time learning on YouTube and all that stuff. So I think it's a very good game, but it's very punishing for new players, and I think that will hurt it 2 to 3 months down the line if they don't figure out that situation.
So this game just got recently delayed. It is officially now set to release October 1st. Not early access. Early access, I believe, is September 26th. What do you guys think? Go for it, Danny.
Thoughts? For me, I came from another game that AGS were kind of dealing with, and that's got some stuff going on at a very similar time. And I don't want to say anything bad, but I think there's a coincidence there of why there's the delay. I don't think it's got anything to do with fishing or life skilling or sorting out the new skills, because we've seen them, they're working. I think they're trying to sort out their servers, because we know that's AGS is Achilles' heel is their servers not working all the time. So I think they're going to try and sort that shit out, and then try and make sure that their New World console thing has a great time. I honestly think that's to do with the delay, but I think it's better for all of us, because we can just kind of take a step back from the Korean launch for now and just chill out and get ourselves ready.
Sure.
But I don't know what a delay, man. I'm very sad about it, to be honest. I got so many guys that have booked time off
already. Yeah, that's the big issue. Yeah, that's the biggest L in all of this.
Everyone will tell you don't take time off. We know that, but we're going to take time off, man. We're gamers, so
yeah. I think that's
very
a poor
sad
excuse.
overall. But
I think people that say, well, then it was your fault for taking time off, I think that's a terrible take, to be honest, because it's like, dude, people are very passionate about launches, and it's not easy once you set your leave to change your leave depending on your job, right? Like it is like that was 100% AGS dropping the ball. I have my opinions, of course, but Shiku, why don't you share yours first?
Honestly, like mine is a bit straightforward. It's like we've dealt with them before in terms of other games, not to talk about any other titles or anything.
No, you can. It's fine.
Delays happen.
It's not a sponsored
Yeah, like the delays
video.
happen in like in the previous 2 games, Lost Ark and New World, we've seen delays. They happen last minute. I saw it coming. It's kind of funny because we were talking about it in our guild like a few days before it happened, and then we got kicked in the face by it. And obviously, as Danny said, like the delay is terrible for people that already like booked their leaves from work, because some people can be more flexible, some cannot, especially that you also added like the early access that people bought already because of a specific
Yeah.
date.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a big if in their face, because now their money is like spent on something that they didn't pay for.
But to be fair,
So
you
it's
can get a
like-
refund on it. You can get
If
a
you
refund.
can,
Yeah.
then yeah, of
Because it's
course,
through
yeah.
Steam, so yeah. That part you can get a
Yeah.
refund, but yeah, it sucks for sure.
It definitely sucks, yeah, regardless. Especially if you're in a hardcore environment,
Mm-hmm.
like, let's be real, all hardcore guilds want that first week or two to be like a big push.
Mm-hmm.
So even if they get a refund or whatever, it's not gonna change the fact that some will not be able to change their
Sure.
holidays, and that will definitely be bad for them.
Yeah. So for me, here's my take on this, and just I want to be clear here because I have obviously worked with AGS on projects in the past. I've not this what I'm about to say is 100% my subjective opinion. This is no backdoor information that I have. You know, I've not talked to AGS about any of this. Here's my theory, my subjective opinion. I don't think the delay has anything to do with New World. I really don't. I think they moved the date for New World because of Thrones delay, but I think it, and I also agree with Danny, there's no way that this has anything to do with these changes. I went to NCSoft and the dude at NCSoft literally told me in person, yes, you guys are going to get all the updates. Like, he literally said it. Like, that was one of the few questions I asked them. Are we going to get the updated version? And they said, you're going to be like, you're obviously going to be a little behind, but like the significant updates, like the core updates, you will get the updated versions, which is, I mean, skill specialization is pretty fucking is a core update, right?
Yeah.
So it's so obvious to me, guys. Come on. It's so obvious. It's World of Warcraft, 100%. World of Warcraft's raids, their endgame raids open up that week, and everybody is going to be playing it. You have World First and all these raids that week. It's 1,000% they are trying to dodge that, which it is a good idea. I think the decision to dodge it is objectively the right decision. So I think it is a good decision on AGS for having an October 1st release date. However, they dropped the ball because they should have set it at October 1st to begin with. They shouldn't have set it earlier and then delayed it, and now people kind of get fucked over because they've already set their days off and stuff, and then also the whole expectation level. But for me, I think, and again, guys, this is not confirmed. Like, this is just my subjective opinion. I've not heard. I don't have any communication with them about this. I think it's for sure them trying to dodge WoW. And if you think, oh well, the WoW player base doesn't really, it goes beyond just the players that are going to be playing Throne and Liberty. It also goes towards their marketing, which I know a lot of you guys are like being like, AGS, when are you going to market this game? And what I told my chat was kind of a long rant, but what I told my chat was, would you consider Lost Ark's launch a success? And everybody says yes, because I mean, how could you not? It's like over 1 million players playing. They did not market their game commercially. What they did was they sponsored a bunch of fucking streamers to play the game extensively, and that's how they essentially marketed the game. I know for a fact that AGS is going to be sponsoring a lot of content creators, but if it's during the week of World First and World of Warcraft, bro, for example, like I don't know, like for example, Maximum. Do you think they're gonna be? I don't know if Maximum's gonna play, but do you think someone like Maximum is gonna play fucking Throne and Liberty at launch day and accept a sponsor? Of course not. They're gonna lose a lot of people in that WoW, and it would be stupid of them to compete with WoW. That's my opinion.
To be honest, like,
No,
not
it
to
makes a lot of
prolong
sense,
this,
man.
it does make a lot of sense, but not to prolong it. The only issue is the fact that like people already are sitting there because of mistakes that have happened in the past as well. And also early access, let's be real, was something that people didn't really like. So it was like all these things coming together. That delay was basically like the last straw to some people based on things in the past as well. That's
For sure.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I definitely agree. So the Western delay is happening, but okay, when it comes to just this game coming out in the West, period, like just in general, the open beta didn't have the highest number of how many do we have? Like, it was around 50K, I think, on Steam, right?
Yeah, like,
Chat, help me out here.
50, yeah.
I think it was like 50-ish K. Now, to be fair, that didn't include console. We're going to get a little bit of a push with console players, but with PC, that's what it was. Now, I saw something recent with, like, I think there was something recently on Steam, like Steam's wish list. I think they had like over 400,000 people had Throne on their wish list or something like that. I don't know. How do you guys think Throne's gonna do in the West, launch wise?
I'm just looking now at the player.
Is it 680k?
Yes.
680k. Okay.
I've
6, 7.
expected, like, honestly, a 500, 600k personally. Like,
You
on
think
launch.
no chance, bro? Really? You think so?
I think like 500k. Like, this is like accounting for console as well, obviously. Not just Steam.
Oh, with,
Like, I
with
think
console.
about
Okay.
maybe 500k with console. Yeah, about 500k.
How much without console?
Realistically, 200k possibly.
You think there are going to be
300K.
more console players than PC players?
The reason I think there is going to be more console players is because of the fact that there are so many people that are waiting for a new MMO on console. We
Yeah.
have not had an MMO on console for a while. So I think that alone is going to bring like a lot of people. Obviously, they're not going to stay for long, let's be real. But I think you're going to have like about 300k PC, 200k console. I would say.
Really?
Yeah. I might be very generous, but I think
Sure.
you would see that.
Danny, what do
Yeah.
you think?
It's really difficult because there's a lot of negativity out there about the game already that a lot of people will just dodge it. But if they pull in the if they pull in all the big streamers, they have a lot of clout with a lot of people, so people will try it. It's free to play, right? So I think the numbers will be quite high. I think you're looking at like 700,000-800,000 on launch day.
Wow.
But I think AGS are good at doing this, right? We've seen it on
That's a
New
good
World, and that
point.
was they
That's a good
managed
point.
to pull in big numbers, and it's very important to them because moving forward, if they say that they had a good launch on like if you look at New World, it is a blinding success of a game when it comes down to business. It is successful in every right. You look
From
at
the
the way they
business
speak about
perspective,
it,
sure.
It's extremely successful, and I think that's extremely important for AGS to get Throne of Liberty to be a success on launch, and
For
that
sure.
could come down to streamers or marketing or whatever. I think they'll bring in massive numbers on launch, but I think we'll see quite a big decline quite quickly because of how it's quite complicated, and if you don't spend 20 minutes sorting out your settings and changing XYZ, it's a very punishing game to the average player. And look what New World did. They brought in the average player. They brought in FPS players to play MMOs for the first time. Like, New World was many people's first MMO, and AGS are quite good at bringing in the numbers early on. So I think it's going to be big, but there'll be a big drop.
I do agree with I do agree with some of what you're saying. I think if there's any company that can actually take this game and really get it to a high, I don't want to say high level, but like get a lot of players to actually play it on launch day, I think it definitely is AGS, primarily because of the money, but also it's hard to kind of argue with their track record, right? Like their previous two MMOs, they all did like around 1 million. Right, which is big. You guys are way more optimistic than I am. I do not think they're going to even come close to those numbers with Throne, but they do have the experience, and I never say never, because one thing that they did do with Lost Ark that I know that they did was the sponsors that they offered to certain streamers and whatnot. Which, by the way, I'm not breaking any NDA here because I was not sponsored for Lost Ark's launch. But they, I know for a fact that they would offer these sponsorships, but in those sponsorships, they would require a certain amount of hours past level cap. So it'd be like you have to hit level cap, and then you have to stream X amount of hours. Now, they spent a lot of money. I know some streamers, and they told me how much what some of their deals were, and I was like, holy shit, that's a lot. But like, and I have no idea what they're gonna do for Throne. But there's no way they're just gonna half-ass it with Throne, right? And if they were to do a similar thing with Throne, where they're like, hey, you need to get to level cap and then play for an X amount of hours, I think that'll be good, because then, as a lot of you guys in chat here know, Throne really picks up at the end game, right? It's definitely an end game MMO. So I think that's a net W. But even with that, guys, man, I think PC users, 100 to 200K. I think it's going to be 100 to 200K. I'm sorry. Like, I hope I'm wrong, but I think it's like 100 to 200K PC.
Do you think that because of the negativity that surrounded it over the past year, essentially?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a part of it, for sure. It's the negative stigma that surrounds the game. It's also the open beta. Like if you look at the beta test numbers, for a completely open beta test, it was in my opinion very underwhelming. Anytime you have a beta test and a region is dead to the point where Shroud had to go to NA East from West, that's not a good sign. And NA East wasn't even kicking, by the way. I was playing on NA East. There's literally one hardcore guild on the entire NA East. And I know the counter argument to this is like, oh, well, there's a lot of people that didn't want to play. And that's true. I know a lot of guilds, a lot of people that didn't want to play because they didn't want to burn out. But we're talking about an open fucking beta where it's an opportunity to play the game for the first time. Only doing 50K. I don't know. I also yeah.
No, just wanted to comment on the part about the NA part because it's actually kind of funny because I get asked this a lot and I always say that I feel like this game is going to be an EU game. Because judging by Lineage 2 specifically, which is supposedly a pre-sequel of this, it's like you can tell that EU are the main players for these kinds of games.
Yeah, EU is way more active, it felt like.
Yeah.
Way more. Yeah. It's actually kind of crazy. It's making me want to go EU. Anyways, moving on. Unless you guys have anything to add to that, the Pearl Abyss CEO recently moved over. I had an opportunity to meet this lady in person. She was fantastic. She seemed like a fantastic human being, and I have a lot of respect for what she's done for Black Desert Online West in the West. For NAEU. I think she's done a pretty good job. It's hard to say you did a bad job when the game 10 years later still has as many players as it does, right? How many MMOs have that amount of players that play the game after 10 years, right? It's close to 10 years now. And she is now working for NCSoft America. Any thoughts on this, boys?
Honestly, it's just hard to tell, honestly, because first of all, I don't know how much of an impact she would even have as a person. I don't know like what her role is going to be.
CEO.
Second of all, it's NC. Well, yeah, but it's NC America. Does she have a direct impact on Throne Global?
Sure.
Because it's published by Amazon Games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's kind of hard to tell if she even has any direct like impact on Throne itself. Maybe in other games, sure. Mm-hmm. But Throne, I'm not 100% sure. I could be wrong, obviously. But
yeah, I don't think she's going to have too much, to be honest.
I don't have much.
Throne. Gotcha.
Oh.
That's okay.
I'm lagging. My bad.
No, you're good. Yeah, I think personally she's not going to have... I have no idea either. I don't think she's going to have too much. I think it's going to just come down to AGS and NCSoft in Korea. But I'm kind of excited with what is going to happen with NCSoft as a whole in Americas with like games like Neo coming out and shit like that. But yeah, I guess that's another subject.
Oh, yeah. Blade and Soul would be definitely interesting to see. I agree.
All right, so we're going to move on then. We're blasting through this, boys, at the 23-minute marker, according to my recording right now. Let's talk about the endgame loop. This is a fucking big one for me, boys. This is a really big one for me. A lot of people don't know this. A lot of people that are playing the hyperboosting server also don't know this because it's a completely different endgame loop on the hyperboosting server and on the retail server. The reason why is because the hyperboosting server is a catch-up server. Think seasonal servers in BDO, for example. So it's very different. I am experiencing the real endgame loop, and it's not great. And before I let these two handsome young men explain their or share their opinions on it, let me kind of give you the skinny here real quick. Originally, Throne and Liberty's endgame was fairly dynamic. You had events every hour during the prime time, and you didn't have to go to these events. So there was not like the level of FOMO wasn't it isn't what you would think. But you had incentive to go to these events because you would directly progress your character by doing these events. On top of that, you would have a few static things that you could do at any time. You can do your dungeons, your contracts with just your daily missions, and your open world dungeon grind, which is just like BDO grinding mobs, right? In like TLDR in a nutshell, it was pretty much those three things, and then the events that you do. So you're always doing something different, right? The current endgame has changed. You still have your dungeons, open world grind, and the contracts. That's still there. But the majority of your time now, when you're done with those things, because those three things, by the way, do not take you very long. Just a few. It'll take you like 5 to 10 minutes each depending. I mean, 15 minutes tops, 20 minutes tops each, usually not even that long. Again, it depends on how geared you are and how efficient you are, but roughly somewhere around there. You know, it doesn't take long. But now you are spending your time doing these challenge dungeons, which on its own I think is great because they're like Mythic Plus like dungeons. They're 2 dungeons every week, and it's Mythic Plus mode. You go all the way from tier 1, tier 30, all the way up, and they just get progressively more difficult. These dungeons you can spam all day, every day, and they drop runes. And at the end game, once you get all your gear, you're essentially just leveling up your runes to progress vertically. And you're just doing these dungeon runs over and over and over and over and over again because that's all there is to do, because they've also gutted the awards that you get from the events, from the open world events. So doing these dynamic events like that faction v faction v faction PvP, all that stuff, it's actually kind of a waste of time because you don't get anything from it. You literally get 1 rune, a little bit of solent, and a fruit basket that you could use to craft food buffs. That's all you get. Meanwhile, if you run a challenge dungeon, you can get like 10 plus runes in 1 run that can take you 5 to 10 minutes, right? So this is the new endgame loop. I personally hate it. I very much dislike this rune grind. I'm just bored of it. I really am. What do you guys think? Thoughts? Shiku, why don't you start us off on this?
To be honest, I have a lot to say about this, to be fair. I'm one of the people that liked the end game to some degree. Like, it was not perfect, but it was definitely good enough. It felt dynamic, as you said. So it's really interesting for me to see them take that somehow out of the window and make something that was originally good this bad. Like, it is horrifically bad. And I think a lot of people didn't play the game, would not even understand that you'll literally run the runes grind infinitely per day. Like, as Kanon was saying, like, this is the kind of run you would do an infinite amount. If you want to do it like 50 times in a row, you would sit there, do the same dungeon 50 times in a row in one day. That is fucking insane to me. So I think, honestly, like, the system at its core is flawed anyway. Like, they shouldn't have implemented it in the way such as you do your tier 1 or tier 2, which you get the loot out of. And then once you're done with that, you now work on your runes, because you get to a point where you still need traits or gear. And then you need to do those runs. And then you need to do the runes after, even though they are essentially the same dungeons. I think they should have just been implemented as one system and maybe even cap the entries so that you commit to the other stuff. And I definitely think the dynamic events changes were really bad. Like the whole basket thing and all that stuff for the food buffs, that was definitely terrible. Like, they definitely should have made it more impactful, especially the PvP. Like, let's be real. PvP should always be, like, in my opinion at least, should always be a high risk, high reward kind of thing. So for them to make it like as equal or pretty much the same to the PvE events kind of like kills the whole aspect of wanting to go for the high risk, because why would you do that? It's just a waste of time.
So just to clarify for the viewers at home, what Shiku was talking about were 2 different types of dungeons. In Throne of Liberty, you now have 2 different types of dungeons. So they're the same dungeons, but you have a challenge mode version, which are the Mythic Plus ones that you can spam infinitely and they give you runes. And there are just regular dungeons. These dungeons, you can do up to 2 times a day on average. You get 2 entries per day that can stack. So you can stack those entries and do them all at once if you want later. But you have like 2 entries per day. In those dungeons, they drop chests and they give you a bunch of rewards. Like, you get gear out of the chests. You can get solent. You can even get loosened depending on how you go about kind of dismantling the gear and whatnot, but you get a lot of loot from the dungeons, and those 2 different things. Well, I think what Shiku is saying is that he prefers if they combine those 2, where you can do the where you can get the runes and knock out your dungeon points both at the same time. I think that's what you meant, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, because they're the same dungeons anyway.
Right, it's the same dungeons. Danny, what are your thoughts? So Danny, you've been playing this game
I don't have much of an opinion on this.
Yeah, you've been playing this game for a long time, but you stopped playing and then you recently came back. And when you came back, you've been playing the Hyperboost server. The Hyperboost server, it's a very different progression system than the actual current endgame. So I know you haven't really gotten into this, but what do you think, just on paper, the idea of an end game where you're just running the same dungeon over and over and over and over and over again? To clarify, just so that I want to clarify my stance on this, I don't mind having a feature in a game that you can grind infinitely. I personally, I don't really mind that, but I don't like how the only thing that you really need to do in the current endgame is that challenge dungeon over and over and over and over and over and over again. That's what I would prefer them to juice out the events so that you'd rather do the events, and then there's more incentive to do the events, and then when the event isn't on, you can grind out the dungeon if you want. I would prefer that. So I do think it's like one change away from being good, but I just don't like it how it currently is. Danny, sorry for that long-winded explanation there. What
I was
are your
just
thoughts?
gonna say my signal's been a bit bad, so I'm sorry if I like missed stuff or whatever. But I can see the guys in chat already outing me. I can admit that I haven't done a single dungeon in Hyper Boost. I haven't done one
In a Hyper Boost,
I haven't touched it at all. I have half traded gear. I just couldn't be bothered. I think I'm on like my 5th character or something. But the idea behind it is bad, right? I can talk about this on an overarching sort of situation where my experience in another game that's similar, like Guild Wars, where everybody needs to get to a similar power level within a sensible period of time so everybody can get involved in the content, and the content really is those dynamic events. Every event is somewhat different because it's different because of the people. Whereas if you're doing these end game dungeons, you're just playing against the AI the whole time, and it gets very boring and very, very shitty. But if everybody can get to a similar power level, and you can run these infinite dungeons to creep that power level a certain amount, because you're putting in the effort, so you can get a little bit more powerful than everybody else. That's good. That's a good thing to do, because it gives you something to constantly work towards. But I couldn't even bother to do a single dungeon, because I knew there's so much you have to do to get yourself geared up to be competitive in PvP. Like I was at like Hidden Brown Mika event for all the Dominion events, because I was down with the peasants, man. I was just fighting with the newbies. I was like, yeah, it was great. But honestly, I had so much more fun being there on my current level than I did playing against you guys at the top, who I'm getting one shot by, and I had full purple gear. So to a normal person, that's pretty good. But if you're not traded, you're not ruined, you're not this, that, and the other, that you have to spend a lot of time working on, you're screwed. And it's a punishing system. So yes, it's a bad system in general. I think we should make sure that people can get powered pretty quickly, and then give people an extra 10% to take it to that super next level. So I'm waffling now, but yeah.
No, you're good. You're good. I mean, way better than me. I go on these random ass rants that take 9-10 minutes.
We love the rants, yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you. Okay, so I mean, to be honest, guys, we've already gone past my 30-minute goal mark here, but we're gonna go over this last subject, because I think this is kind of the main subject and one of the more important talking points, which is the time to kill. So we're going to talk a little bit about PvP balance, but let's start this discussion off with the time to kill. For those of you guys don't know what time to kill is, TTK, it is the amount of time that it will usually take someone to kill another player. So let's say the time to kill is fast. Let's say it's like a second. That means someone engages on you and you literally die in like one ability, one shot, right? So the time to kill right now in Throne of Liberty is very fast. If you've played this game in the past, especially in the early stages when everyone has no traits and is in green gear, the time to kill is significantly slower. I actually really like the pacing of early game PvP. However, currently it's really fast. And for those of you who are playing hyper boosting server, it's especially fast because you're killing people with very little gear, and you have like tier 2 weapons, and you have maxed out skills, and then the people you're fighting probably doesn't even have a tier 2 armor set and or traits, right? So it's very different. But in the end game, the real end game, where everyone is geared out with tier 2 gear, it's not quite like hyper boost, but it's still very fast. A greatsword dagger jumps on you, you're dying in 2 abilities, right? 2-3 abilities. So it's still insanely fast. So this is something that NCSoft addressed directly. I should say they addressed verbally. They said that they were going to increase the time to kill, but they further acknowledged their stance recently in the previous update by saying we were waiting for the skill specializations to go through before we made any adjustments to the time to kill, which I believe is the right call. You don't want to preemptively make changes without testing this new combat system that's coming into the game. But here's what they said. They said that they're already seeing time to kill slowing down with the new runes and the trait resonances. And as runes level up, actually, let me backtrack. They said that the time to kill became faster, but is now starting to slow down since people had rune synergies, right? Because rune synergies increase, it made the time to kill even faster because people had more offense. But now that time to kill is starting to slow down because people are getting more defensive traits through their trait resonance and their runes, their runes leveling up. Now we do have Talandria that's coming out in a few days with tier 2 accessories coming out. We don't have legendary gear that's coming out until January. And they also said that there's going to be a significant amount of HP that is increased from level 50 to level 55, which also drops this week. Now, this just kind of opens the door for a lot of different things. And before I give my take, I wanted to just kind of explain the situation for the viewers at home that might not understand what the current situation is. And I hope that was a decent explanation. But Danny, you're pretty passionate about this. Why don't you share your thoughts on the time to kill and kind of where they're going with it? Do you like where they're going with it? How is it now? Tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, obviously I can't comment too much because I'm not at Endgame, and I think I'll comment on it from like an average player POV and like from a content point of view, you want the game to be popping. You want as many people as you can. So for us, we can reach more people. You can then fight new people. The more people in the game, the more healthy the game becomes. And my main issue is that people are starting. Well, a lot of people are Endgame now, right, on the Korean servers. They're there, but it's taken 7 months, was it? 6-7 months for a lot of people to get there. And I think my worry is that if it's going to take you 6 to 7 months without a hyper boost server to catch up, it's a very difficult game to enter.
Yeah.
If you don't enter on launch, and that's the main concerning thing. And time to kill comes if there is too much power for some people because they can kill you quickly or whatever. I think that is an overarching issue that I think, like you say, they're trying to deal with. But the bottom line for me really is everybody needs to survive a little bit of time, regardless of what level you are. Okay, there's some exception there, but people need to be able to survive to learn their class, to learn what they're doing wrong. And at the moment, even me, I'm sat on full pink. Fair enough, I've only got half traits. I'm getting one shot by a mage who I can't even see. And so how do I learn from that? And I think a lot of people won't bother trying to learn. They'll just quit.
Sure.
And
very true.
That's a really worrying situation for all of us, right? From a community leader or a guild leader, we're going to have no one to fight, and people are going to quit our guilds because they're not really into it. And it's a very slippery slope that we're talking about, and I hope that the changes they're making is going to sort that out. But yeah, I'm nervous for this because this is why I'm thinking after 2 to 3 months, the player base will drop dramatically because people are going to be behind. Or fuck, I'm not going to spend the next 4 months trying to PvE my way to then do some PvP. So yeah. It's a worrying situation, and I think if they don't sort out with this patch for global, it might have a really bad effect.
Chiku, your thoughts?
Foreseeable future of the game.
Honestly, like I'm not gonna get into the whole like pay to win topic because I feel like we're past due this anyway.
No pay to win talk for this one. Yep.
Yeah, that's fine. The only thing that I want to talk about is I feel like I just dislike how they overcomplicate the whole TTK thing, because let's be real, like Soft has worked on a lot of MMOs before. They had good systems in a lot of other MMOs before, and it's kind of weird that they're not trying to learn from those MMOs. And I dislike the whole idea of like putting the new changes that they're gonna do in Talandria, which is like from 50 to 55, you're gonna get like this like insane skyrocketing of HP and defensive stats, and also the PvP stats and such. Because I think all that is going to do is realistically just make you tankier, and that's it. But you're still going to be dealing with the balance issues. And I think at its core, honestly, the only real way to solve this is like put different percentages on skills for both PvE and PvP, in my opinion. I don't think realistically you will ever reach a proper state of PvP if you have the same percentages on the weapons in PvE as PvP. And we've seen it with a lot of weapons that one weapon could overperform in PvE, but then you take it to PvP and then it's suddenly really bad, and vice versa, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, BDO does that as well. But I think I think the introduction to the PvP stat is going to be kind of a remedy. It could be a remedy to that, because if you actually look in game, like when they explained it on the announcement, it was just like, hey, we're gonna add like PvP stats so that, you know, damage can be reduced. But if you actually look in the game in your stat sheet, they already have everything done. Like if you see, it's like there's literally like PvP hit, PvP endurance, PvP, you know, defense, like all of that. Like it's literally in your stat sheet. So I think this is something that they may have kind of considered prior, knowing that damage is going to obviously scale up as you go vertical. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do. But I would say that I'm a little bit concerned with how they go about it, because I would rather have everyone just become innately tankier to increase the time to kill. And of course, and I'm not talking about balance here, because balance is another conversation. But I think it would be better, because like the alternative to that is kind of what is in the endgame now, which is more defensive stats, which is more defensive evasion or endurance. So a lot of people don't know what I'm about to say because they haven't experienced this. But if you are endgame in KR, you'll already begin to feel this, especially if you're fighting other people that are endgame. But what's happened is that currently hit and those offensive stats are kind of capped. So you're somewhere around 1 to 1.5k hit, but you've gotten a lot of evasion, or excuse me, a lot of crit. So this is why a lot of people are saying, oh, endurance isn't as good, because people have a lot of crit. But evasion is way more accessible now, even more. So builds are now starting to push 2.4 to 3k evasion. And believe me, I was starting to fight some dagger builds, X-bow daggers and bow daggers, and I'm running a bow dagger hit build, and I was missing 60% of my attacks on them. And believe me, of course, time to kill is increased if I'm missing 60% of my attacks, but that's not a good feeling of time to kill being increased. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel good when I'm missing my key skills. I'd rather it be tankier rather than, bro, I can't hit this motherfucker. You know, and then because then becomes RNG. It's like, oh, if I hit this skill, then I'll win. I one shot him. But if I don't hit the skill, now I'm not going to do that much damage, because you know maybe a Zephyr's knock or a strafing misses or whatever that may be, right? So I don't know, man. Yeah. I gotta see how much tankier people feel with the PvP changes, or with the PvP stats, and how much tankier people are going to be with the level 50 to 55 cap with more HP, because they did say it's going to be significantly more HP. But it doesn't actually feel super amazing with the amount of hit that's available compared to evasion right now. And it's even more, especially rock, paper, scissors. Danny, you were talking about like mages not being like, or mages melting you. It's even more like that right now. Like, for example, you can spec so that like a fucking greatsword dagger can't fucking touch you, because they're going to be running at 1500 hit and you'll have 2400 melee evasion. But then the second a mage comes, he's gonna literally fart on you and you'll die, for example. You know, it's kind of like a pick your poison situation.
Yeah, there's definitely the rock paper scissors play at stake. I see some people saying to me in chat as well, like, you know, if I'm not fully geared, why don't I expect to get one shot? I think the main point I'm trying to make is that first month of PvP where everybody's in blues or greens. This game is, I can't express how fun it is. Like it's just genuinely incredible. Like it's so much fun. And then when you get past that, obviously if you're not keeping up or new players, it's at that point then when the fun starts to drop off, because for some, I don't know how it could be done, but that early game feeling needs to kind of be portrayed in the end game as well, where I don't know, you having proper battles and skill comes into play, not just your build, you know. And I think that's my point I'm trying to make, regardless of how much gear you have or I have. That fun at the start needs to find its way to the fun at the end game as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that point, because like even the solution they're adding, like you're basically expecting people to wait until level 55, which is not even going to happen in the first few months on release, for example, to get that new defensive stats, which is like, you will lose a lot of people in the process. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean the defensive stats are coming in pretty well.
I think we should grind in an MMO. Like, I'm not saying let's not grind. It is 2024, and our attention spans are much less than what they used to be. We need to grind. Don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting that, but find that fun at the end.
Find
of
that,
it.
around,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. No, I agree. I think the experience definitely needs to be fun. And time to kill is certainly an issue. I'm just curious as to how they actually take it. But as far as the YouTube video goes, guys, this is going to be the end of the show. This went on 15 minutes too long. I was trying to get this to go 30 minutes for YouTube, but we are at the 45-minute mark. We are going to continue to have this conversation on Twitch for a little bit longer. So if you do want to hear the full podcasts, then just join us on Twitch. All of the links can be found in the description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know what you guys think in the comment section below. Thank you, guys. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.